Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So I have early voting data to share from several swing states. I also have news about Donald Trump's complete faceplant at a recent public event. So first, let's talk early voting. As I mentioned yesterday, in all of 2020, in the 2020 election, there were just under 4 million votes cast in the state of Georgia. After only 2 days of early voting in that state, the Georgia Secretary of State office reports that almost 620,000 ballots have already been cast. So this is either in person or by mail. On Wednesday, which was the second day of early voting, almost 270,000 people showed up that day to vote in person. And then there were 34,000 or more than 34,000 absentee ballots that were received as of that day as well. So as of this afternoon, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution said the total number of Georgia votes had risen to more than 740,000. Here's the exciting part. Of those 740,000 plus, 85,000 ballots were cast by first-time voters. They also said that according to the voting data, a lot of those first-time voters registered shortly after Kamala Harris held her first rally in Atlanta, Georgia. Could be a coincidence, maybe not, right? The gender gap also that I mentioned yesterday, that has continued. So more women are voting than men. As of yesterday, as you can see here in this graphic, NBC News is reporting a 10% gap between male and female voters in Georgia, the ones who have cast their ballots, not, registered voters, people who have actually cast their ballots. And by and large, women lean Democratic, especially in this cycle, with the whole Roe versus Wade being overturned and all that jazz. So all of this could be good news for the Democrats. The other side of the coin, though, is that the AJC, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, they also reported that turnout is soaring in a handful of rural counties that favor Trump. So we'll have to wait and see, Could it be that maybe there's some blue voters in those rural counties and they're like, you know what, I'm going to do my part and I'm going to get out there and vote against him? Could be, right? Or it could be that people are just really excited about Trump. Don't get it. I don't understand, but okay. And you know what? I want to bring up too, there was a part if you guys saw the Bret Baier interview of Kamala Harris yesterday on Fox News. This is what drives me insane with Democrats. They have the perfect opportunity to create trust with the audience, to create trust with the American people, and win back some of these Fox News viewers, some of these people who are either moderates or, anti-Trump, but they're not completely sold on Kamala. They're, don't really trust the Democratic Party at this point. She gave an okay answer. I think overall she did, good, especially for such a contentious interview and how aggressive Bret Baier was being with her. So overall, I think she did well. Here's my one critique and where I would have given a different answer. When he asked her why half of the country is voting for Trump and, she kept trying to bait her into, saying that, they're idiots or, going back to Hillary Clinton's thing, they're deplorables or whatever. And he said, are they stupid? She did turn it around on Trump. She said, I would never say that. Trump is the one who, talks down to people and demeans people, blah, 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 blah. It was an okay answer. She could have taken that moment to turn it around and really, really earn the trust of American voters. She could have said something to the effect of, you know what? Half of the country is voting for Trump or they like Trump because this is what we've seen over centuries. When people have lost faith in their government, when people feel like the government isn't listening to them, people will go with a strong man. People will go with someone who is not good for them, not good for the country, someone who is a fascist, who, tells them what they want to hear, but really is only out for his own self-interest because they're looking for anything. They're looking for a savior. And that's part of our problem. That is part of our fault. We own that, not just the Democratic Party, but government in general. Republican and Democratic presidencies and governments have let the people down, and I intend to change that. I intend to be a different type of president, someone who will keep my word and who wants to earn your trust and who wants to do the right thing for you and who will fight for those things. She could have said something like that, and I think that would have won over a lot of people. So again, just one critique. Overall, she did well. You know, Anyway, just my 2 cents. What do I know? I've never run for office. But anyway, so we'll see how this goes, but we're going to have to wait, see how things shake out. And everyone is focusing on Georgia. I mean, rightfully, they've broken records, but there are other swing states that are seeing an incredible amount of turnout as well. So as of yesterday, Pennsylvania reported over 631,000 votes cast. Of those, 66% were Democrats, 25% were Republicans, and then an additional 9% are either registered with other parties or they're independents. Michigan also had an even bigger turnout than Georgia. As you see here, almost 780,000 people have already voted in this very important swing state. 55% are Democrats so far, 35% Republicans, and 10%, again, no affiliation or, with the main parties or independents. Now, the difference is, I will say, even though they've had more votes, it's not as impressive, and this is why people are putting the focus on Georgia, because their in-person voting window hasn't opened yet. So this is still impressive because their open or their pre-election voting window, early voting, starts next week on the 25th, I believe it is. So these were all mail-in ballots. So that's pretty significant that people have mailed in that many ballots already. And here's how it's looking so far on a national level. As of yesterday, more than 8 million ballots have been cast either in person or by mail. So this is across the country. Now, again, some states have not started with the early voting officially. And as you can see in this image, 50% of the ballots cast so far have been by Democrats, 34% cast by Republicans, 16% by voters registered with other parties like the Green Party or what have you, or independents. I'm going to caution everyone not to read too much into this. I mean, we see these Democratic numbers and it's, it's a lot more Democrats. This is so exciting. Democrats are known to vote early, right? And the Republicans have historically voted on election day or closer to election day. Now, their party has started to encourage more early voting. Old habits die hard, though. So, what we could see is another 2020 scenario with the red mirage. Now, for anyone who isn't familiar with that term, that's what they called it in 2020 because ballots cast on election day are tallied first in a lot of these areas. Believe it or not, for people who don't live in the country, they take in hundreds of thousands, millions of ballots across the country, and they don't start counting them till election day. It's insane in most states. Okay, this is why we wait for sometimes days or weeks to find out who won the presidential election. So what happened was in 2020, is that because Democrats vote early and they voted very significantly by mail in 2020 because of COVID, those votes weren't counted until that night, until like after all of the in-person votes were done. all of the the majority, vast majority of the in-person votes were cast by Republicans. So on the day of the election, it looked like Trump was going to win in a landslide. Then, when all the mail-in ballots were counted that night and over the next few days from predominantly Democrats who actually believed in COVID, knew that it was real, it shifted the race, obviously, and Joe Biden won. So I think that that's why Republicans are hesitant to encourage their early voting of their base, and I think it's why Trump is so reluctant to do that, because it takes away one of his fairy tales about, oh, I was winning. It was a big, beautiful election. I was winning playing my my air instruments. And then they stole it in the middle of the night. Democrats stole it. So it takes that away. If you have just as many or close to as many Republicans voting in advance and by mail and blah, 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 and they're not being counted until that night, they're not going to have that red mirage. So we'll see. It's seeming like it's probably going to be still more Republicans voting the day of. But again, we have to see how things shake out. Now, let's talk about Trump's complete and total fail. This was at a Univision hosted event. This was for quote unquote undecided Latino voters. Now, first of all, what we have learned through great reporting is that no, actually what they did was they went to a modeling agency, an acting agency. They hired actors, maybe and models, to sit in this audience. So unbelievable. Apparently Kamala did it too. So I am not just going to throw Trump under the bus. Apparently, not that Kamala went and hired actors and stuff, but she had an audience at some event recently, and it was a lot of ringers. It was people that were activists, and they brought them in. So, but Trump went to this agency, brought in people to play these roles, to pretend that, oh, we're undecided Latino voters. Well, there actually was one undecided Latino voter, a true undecided, in the audience. So check out this video, and as you're watching it, I want you to pay close attention to two things. First, watch how Trump is self-soothing. Okay, he self-soothes himself. Hard to say. Self-soothe. Say that 10 times fast. He does this as he's being asked a difficult question by this man, or questions. He is swaying. He's swinging back and forth the whole time. Watch him. And then second, I want you to watch not just the reaction on the man's face as he's talking, which says it all, but watch the reaction of a woman in the crowd when Trump starts talking about how no one was shot on January 6th. So she's going to be up in the left-hand corner of your screen. Enjoy.
I'm a Republican, no longer registered though. I want to give you the opportunity to try to win back my vote. Okay. Your, let me say, action and maybe inaction during your presidency and the last few years sort of, was a little disturbing to me. What happened during January 6th and the fact that, you waited so long to take action while your supporters were attacking the Capitol. Coronavirus, I thought the public was misled during coronavirus, and that many more lives could have been saved if we would have been informed better. And also people in your administration who don't support you. I'm curious how people so close to you and your administration no longer want to support you, so why would I want to support you? If you would answer these questions for me, I would really appreciate it and give you the opportunity. There's, your own vice president doesn't want to support you now.
Thank you, Ramiro. So the people that don't support, a very small portion, we have a tremendous, about 97% of the people in the administration support me. but because it's me, somebody doesn't support, they get a little publicity. The vice president, I disagree with him on what he did. I totally disagreed with him on what he did. Very importantly, you had hundreds of thousands of people come to Washington. They didn't come because of me. They came because of the election. They thought the election was a rigged election, and that's why they came. Some of those people went down to the Capitol. I said, peacefully and patriotically, nothing done wrong at all, nothing done wrong. And action was taken, strong action. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns down there. We didn't have guns. The others had guns, but we didn't have guns. And when I say we, these are people that walked down. This was a tiny percentage of the overall, which nobody sees and nobody shows. But that was a day of love from the standpoint of the millions. It's like hundreds of thousands. It could have been the largest group I've ever spoken before. They asked me to speak. I went and I spoke. And I used the term peacefully and patriotically. If you look at the Democrats, what they say, you look at Maxine Waters and you look at Hillary Clinton and you look at what they say, and they don't put that on. They only put Republicans on. But they couldn't get me because of the fact that I said everything's got to be peaceful and patriotic.
So, yeah, I mean, the man's face, like I said, it said it all. He was like, really? Really? Yeah. No, this isn't cutting it. And word salad, I mean, they say that Kamala is nothing but word salad, that she is stupid, that she can't speak, and, everything that comes out of her mouth is just babbling and blah, 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 and, you never know what she's saying. Are you freaking kidding me? Have they heard this guy? And he's hundreds, thousands, no, tens of thousands, millions. I mean, he can't make up his mind how many people showed up on January 6th. And I'm sorry, they didn't come there because of me. You literally put out a tweet saying, be there, will be wild. He literally put out a call to arms to show up. So yeah, it is your fault. And but for the big lie, but for telling people, he acts like these people just came up with voter fraud out of, the clear blue, Fig Newton of their imagination. And don't, you guys, I know it's a figment. Anyway, he acts like they just, all these people in America just decided on a whim, all on their own, simultaneously to show up because they just somehow believed in voter fraud that was non-existent. No, you told them the election was stolen over and over and over again, and it started on election night. So yeah, you did bring them to DC. They were there because of you. And if you noticed, he didn't answer the man's question at all. Didn't ever address the fact that he sat on his ass for 3 hours and didn't bother to call in the National Guard or any assistance, any backup whatsoever. We know now through testimony from his own people that when they went to him and said, Mike Pence is in danger, the Capitol is under attack, he said, and I quote, so what? We know that from recent reporting. We also know that he told his own attorneys, his own White House attorneys, and his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, maybe Mike Pence deserves it when they said that people were wanting to hang him. So, all these people who go, oh, well, Nancy Pelosi was in charge of the National Guard and she should have called it in, and this person and that person, and they didn't have anything ready. He was the commander in chief. He's in charge of the entire military, the one that he's now saying he's going to call in to take up arms against his own people, against the American people, against Democrats who disagree with him. That guy, that strong man, quote unquote, sat on his ass. You're telling me your strong man, MAGA, he couldn't have done anything on January 6th? He's so weak. He's so ineffective. He is such a wimp that he couldn't have gotten the military there. He couldn't have gotten the National Guard. He couldn't have gotten backup for the police. Make up your mind, MAGA. Either he's the strong man, he's this guy who looks like Rambo in all of your frickin' ridiculous photos out there, or he's a little wimp sitting in the corner sucking his thumb who can't do shit. Make up your mind. So there's that, and never in history, never in our country's history, has a president's cabinet members abandoned their president, their candidate, and campaigned for the other side. Never has this happened, where all kinds of cabinet members, all kinds of staff, all kinds of aides, military personnel have come out against the guy who was once their commander in chief, once their employer, their boss, their president, and said he is a danger, he is a lunatic, he is psychotic, he is out of his mind, he is incompetent, he does not belong anywhere near the White House, and I am actually going to switch sides and campaign for the other candidate for the other party. It has not happened, at least to my knowledge. Guess what, MAGA? That's called a clue. That's called a very big clue. And Trump said, we didn't have guns. The other side had guns. First of all, we, I mean, he is telling you right there who he aligns with. We didn't have guns. The other side, the other people had guns. The other people, the other side was the police. Yeah, of course they had guns. They're police. They're there to protect and serve. They're there to protect the Capitol and everyone in it. And guess what? That is bullshit that his people didn't have weapons, that they didn't have guns. I, as you guys know, have been watching my show for a long time. I have covered every single arrest and every single sentence. I'm catching up on some that I'm behind on right now, but every single one. I have read every arrest affidavit. I have read every sentencing memo. Very few people on the planet have done that. I have. So I know for a fact that many of them had guns. Some had knives, they had batons, they had hockey sticks, crutches, bear spray, pepper spray, fire extinguishers. They even used furniture. They even broke into the Capitol, broke up the furniture, and then used it against the police as weapons. They stole the police officers' riot shields. They used those against them as weapons. They used flagpoles, anything they could get their hands on. So for people to say, oh, they weren't armed, that is bullshit. 100% bullshit. And if anybody out there, any MAGA person watching this wants to take me up on it, I will frickin' prove it to you. Come at me. Come on. Take me up on my offer. I will prove it to you. But of course, you'll just say, oh, it's fake news. Oh, it's the deep state. This is why we don't bother to argue with you guys, because you're a bunch of freaking cult members who don't believe facts. Guess what? As you guys said, facts don't care about your feelings, sweetheart. So anyway, and my favorite part of what he said was the end there. I don't know if you guys caught that, the most damning statement that he made at the end. Trump said, they couldn't get me because I said everything's got to be peaceful and patriotic. Yeah, that is what he's hanging his hat on. They couldn't get me because I said those words. Well, guess what, MAGA? He's not being prosecuted for what he said that day. He's being prosecuted for what he did in the lead up to that day and after that day. Try reading. Reading is fundamental. It will help you to understand the world and how things actually work, and not your little fantasy that you've built up to justify voting for someone who is a felon, 34 felony conviction, someone who is an adjudicated sexual assaulter, who the judge said it's, actually rape, just digital rape. and someone who has screwed over everyone in his life. So you can, cheated on all of his wives with a porn star, with a Playboy playmate. I mean, you can try to justify it, but the guy is a complete and total sociopath and piece of crap. So if you want to know the truth, you can go read the indictment and you'll understand that no, he was trying to overturn the election. It has nothing to do with January 6th, why he's being indicted, why Jack Smith brought those charges. It has everything to do with him trying to use, he talks about the weaponization of the justice system. He tried to weaponize the justice system and the law against the American people to steal the election, a legitimate election. So anyway, yeah, there's another rant for the day, but this was just ridiculous. I mean, obviously that man is not voting for him anymore. That was a Florida man who voted for Trump in the past, and it was very clear from the look on his face, Trump didn't win him back. So let's hope that there's many, many more out there like him. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.